As much as we love to talk about Postgres these days, we have not forgotten about MySQL. One of the things we released recently was an upgraded import workflow for bringing an existing MySQL database on a different provider into PlanetScale. To use it, go to your PlanetScale organization and click the New Database dropdown, but then select Import External Database. Go ahead and give this a name, so I'm going to call it the game. And here's where you can select your cluster size. This import workflow is for Vitess only. And then once you're ready, create that database. And what it's going to do is, instead of just bringing you to the dashboard, it actually takes you to the page to start setting up a new import workflow. I'll start by just giving it a name. So import game from RDS. So this example that I'm going to do is a tiny little database that I have in Amazon RDS. And then I need to give it a bunch of information about how to connect to that database so it can start pulling data from the source to the target PlanetScale database. So now I've got this connection information populated. I've given it the host name, just using the default port. The database name is game. The username is migration user, and the password, of course, here is hidden. And this is a user that in our documentation, we specify that you should create this and tell you all the exact permissions to set up for it. Now, there are some advanced settings that you can set if you need more control over the SSL and TLS. For now, I'm going to leave those all as the defaults. And then you can click the connect to database and it will do a check to make sure it can connect. Sometimes there are connection issues that it will warn you about at that stage. If you encounter any of those, definitely go through the guide, because often it has to do with either the migration user not having proper permissions or some settings that need to be set on MySQL. Now that it's been confirmed that I can connect to the database, I'm at the page to start the workflow. So before you actually begin the migration, you can have all the tables get imported, but you can actually optionally select a subset of the tables to import. In this case, I want to import everything, so I'm going to have all of them selected. I could, if I had a specific Vitess key space I wanted it to go into, I could select a different one, but I've only got one, which is fine. And let's go ahead and click the validate button. And this again is a nice feature because there's some validations that happen here. And in this case, I've set everything up well. Safe migrations are enabled. The V schema, so that's Vitess's schema that powers certain things about Vitess, is valid. And it knows that the tables will be validated. And then I have some advanced options here. Again, I can do deferring secondary index creation, which is on by default, and this helps with performance. But if I want to, I could turn this off, or I could change the way that DDL is handled. During an import, you don't want to be doing any schema changes or DDL, but you can change this setting to kind of control differently how it warns you about that. But I'm going to leave these all at the default. And once I am happy and things are validated, I click Create Workflow. At this point, the workflow is starting to copy data from the source to the target. You can see it says copying data. It has information. It grabbed how many rows are in each of my tables. So now, as we can see, it's showing that all of my rows have copied over. And if I had been inserting new rows in my RDS database, those would also be continuously replicated to my new PlanetScale database. And it's at this point of time that you could go into PlanetScale and double check and make sure all the tables exist and the amount of data exists that you expect. And then once you've done a little bit of testing, there's a couple of additional steps that you can do. Again, one improvement that we made of many is, for one, you can see logs about what's going on and kind of the state of the workflow. We have a verification step where you can choose to allow Vitess to run a verification to make sure data was copied and is replicating properly and successfully. It's always good to do your own additional checks as well, but this is a nice peace of mind check that you can run. So that verification went pretty quick because it's a small database. And then at this point, this is when you're ready to basically start switching your traffic over to using PlanetScale as your primary. So before you click this button, right before, is when you want to make sure that you have already switched your application to use the PlanetScale credentials, because once you switch this, PlanetScale is going to expect I'm no longer replicating from the source database on RDS. It's going to believe I am the primary. And so all new writes from the moment you click that need to be going to PlanetScale. And then once you've switched, once you've tested your app, once you make sure it's working correctly, you can click Complete Workflow, Complete. And then basically at this point in time, you are now switched over to using PlanetScale as your new primary database. So look at that. Easy and a lot more powerful and more feature rich than the old import flow was. Drop comments down below. I'll be happy to answer, and have fun importing data.